let's do a talk about how to make artificial data that sort of matches an existing data set. So here we have data on rainfall in Medford, Oregon that I got from a statistics book. So we'll just plot it. And is the rainfall increasing or decreasing as the years go by? One data point for each year. We can put a trend line on it. Display the equation in r squared. The r squared is pretty low, but maybe that's just because of a lot of variability in the rainfall. It does seem that we have a negative slope. The question is that negative slope just the result of randomness, or is there really a trend going on here? So we want to make an artificial data set that has no trend and see how much the slope ends up being usually, and an artificial data set that we know has a trend and see how reliable our estimate of the slope is. So we want to take the data we have and put it onto a new sheet or just copy the whole sheet. So I'm going to right click on the tab here, choose move or copy, create a copy, move to the end, and we'll rename this sheet 3, and this will be a negative control, and we'll do a positive control later. A negative control is one where you know that the effect you're looking for is not there. So I'm going to replace this with a data set that looks kind of like it, but definitely has no trend. So what would do that? Well, we could say let's have a mean. What's the current mean? Let's go back. Let's say what's the average of all that? And what's the standard deviation? So if we take that mean standard deviation and put it over here, and we'll paste it by value, even though that's not the smartest thing. So now I could create something with that mean and that standard deviation. I'm going to need some random numbers, and I don't want to embed them in my formula here, so I'll make a column over here. It's good to retitle this with showing that it's not real data. So I can say, let's start with the mean, and then do a normal distribution with that standard deviation, and fill that down. And the graph is already set, just like it was on my original page, to graph this data and do a trend line. And I can see here the trend line has a positive slope, very small r squared. So I can press F9 on a PC or Command equals on a Mac over and over again and see how much my slope varies and how big my r squared tends to be. Looks like it's usually smaller than, oh, I don't know, hard to say. Maybe I'll do a bonus where we come back and try to quantify that. So that's a negative control where we know that there's no year-by-year trend. Let's come back over here and get the trend line slope of the original data. So, the slope wants the y values first. And there we go. Okay, so I got the slope and the intercept there. Might as well get the correlation too. That one, it doesn't matter which one you do as x or y. I'll just do them in the same order as the slope and intercept. So I can use those to, let's make a copy of this. And now I'll have this be a positive control. Let's go get those numbers again. need to paste them by value. Okay, well, rename this positive control. So now I want to put a formula here that has some slope to it as well as the deviations. So I'll say intercept plus slope times the year. Now that mean is part of the trend already. I guess I can just leave it there, but I'll go back and put a 0 here. And then, so hopefully that looks a lot like the original data. And we should see usually a negative slope here. Sometimes it was positive because I have a negative slope there. And we should see an r² that's a little higher than it was on the negative control sheet. I could make it really clear that I have a negative slope by putting in a more drastic number here. Let's do that. Now, that ends up negative because I would have to adjust the intercept as well. I'm not going to bother here. But here I've created a way of making a data set that definitely has a slope to it that I can quantify here. I guess this is our target slope. Because the trend line here won't exactly match the target slope I have here, but it should be close.